But it's seen big changes as well in the finance ministry, hasn't it?
Yeah, before there were 7 ministers in the finance ministry in France. There are now only 2 after this reshuffle. They include the sometimes controversial Arnaud Montebourg, who's been promoted to economy minister. In his previous role as minister charged with protecting French industry, he often clashed with big business, including one incident where he threatened to nationalise a steelworks that was set to be shut down. Michel Sapin joins the team as finance minister, replacing Pierre Moscovici. He'll have to negotiate France's budget deficit with Brussels. Despite being given 2 extra years to balance its books, France looks set to miss budget targets again next year. He's been speaking on that matter on French radio this morning. Let's take a listen.
The targets, we will stick to the targets. That is part of the budget cap, and it's out of the question to change this cap. The fact that we'll be discussing with our European partners is perfectly normal, but we need to share. That is the only thing that matters for the entire Eurozone, which has a similar economic climate to that of France. France is on par with the Eurozone. More growth, more jobs. We will balance little by little our deficit, and it will be the time frame that will be discussed.
To Frankfurt next, where officials of the European Central Bank have some tough decisions to make later. Mario Draghi's under pressure to do something about the low rate of inflation in the Eurozone, and in some cases even falling prices. Deflation is bad news for economies because consumers tend to spend less money as they're waiting for prices to go down even further. It's a real risk to the recovery in the Eurozone. The IMF, the latest organisation to call on the ECB to do something about it, as Delana de Souza now explains.
It's been criticised for not doing enough in jump-starting the Eurozone's economy. The ECB has so far resisted pressure to slash its key interest rates to zero. Unlike the US Federal Reserve, the bank has no bond-buying programme. With the risk of deflation looming, the pressure is on for the bank to do more. So far, it's resisted.
The prospect for inflation is cause of concern, of course, because it seems to indicate that Europe can be, and in particular the euro area, in a protracted period of low inflation. It's important to also underline that we see no deflation prospects.
But as the ECB tones down the risk of deflation, data released on Monday shows inflation in the Eurozone for March reached a 4-year low at 0.5%, well below the bank's target of 2%. While low prices may excite customers, the prospects of prices dropping further could keep them off spending and delay a recovery further. The International Monetary Fund says more needs to be done for Europe to get out of its funk.
If the policies are the same, no variation, no change, no innovation, no breakthrough, we will be in that sort of low, medium-term growth, which could turn into a trap, as I've mentioned.
Analysts are hoping Thursday's meeting will fire up a debate on what more the bank could be doing. They'll be looking to ECB Chief Mario Draghi for answers.
So is that causing any movement on the markets?
Not just yet. The market's just opened, of course, here in Europe. It started in positive territory. No great movements yet. Investors will be watching very closely for what Mario Draghi has to say when he speaks later. You can see that CAC 40 Paris just nudging into the green there. Over in Asia, a positive lead from Wall Street had helped trading on the Asian markets. The Nikkei in Japan up over 1%. That's due to the falling value of the yen. And despite stimulus measures announced by the Chinese government, they're going to spend up to $25 billion more on building railways. That didn't help shares in Shanghai, which are down by almost 0.8%.
A couple of bits of companies news for you now. This is starting with a giveaway from Microsoft.
Yeah, the company's making its Windows software free to smartphones. It's a change of course for the software giant as its mobile operating system is losing ground to major players like Apple and Google. The move isn't likely to cost the company very much money though, as it's in the process of buying Nokia, which makes around 80% of phones using the Windows mobile system. And Germany's competition authority has fined a group of brewers more than €230 million for fixing the price of beer. The ruling affects 6 companies, including the German arm of Danish brewer Carlsberg. It's the second round of punishments in this investigation after the Federal Cartel Office imposed more than €100 million in fines against 5 other companies in January.
Now, Stephen's pulled the rabbit out of the hat today. He's managed to write a story which includes Miley Cyrus and sanctions. It is complicated, though, so listen. US sanctions on Russian businessmen could have a knock-on effect for music fans in Finland.
It sounds like one of those puzzles, doesn't it? It's what two things link
Exactly.
Russian sanctions
You managed
and
it, though.
Miley Cyrus? Well, I can tell you there are 27 people affected by the first round of sanctions that came from the United States. Businessmen, officials, they were hit by measures including asset freezes and travel bans. Well, one of them is a man called Gennady Timchenko, who owns 50% of the Heartwall Arena in Helsinki. Two concerts scheduled there by an American promoter, Live Nation. One is Miley Cyrus, the other is Justin Timberlake. The Financial Times says this morning that if the sanctions are followed to the letter, it could mean that those concerts are in jeopardy because the promoter wouldn't be able to pay the money it owes to Mr. Timchenko. Now, we don't know exactly what position of payment they're at. If they still have money left to owe, it could cause massive problems on it and perhaps give a bit of an unpleasant surprise to those who are fans of Miley Cyrus's twerking.
Exactly.
Like you, Stuart, maybe?
I'm very impressed that you managed to find some shots there of Miley Cyrus with some clothes on as well.
I do
fully
my
dressed.
best. You know, this is a serious story.
Well done, Stephen. Stephen with business. Going to have a look at what's grabbing headlines around the world now. Of course, the government reshuffle here in France has been all over the French papers. We talked about that earlier. But Flo is also getting a lot of attention.